Well, to start with, before we go too far with the recording, I just kind of need to take a few deep breaths, not going into the invocation, but let's just close our eyes for a minute and take some deep breaths. Let this light and the vitality and vibrancy of life force energy flow into your body through you. Place your hands on your heart. Take some deep breaths and receive. Although you may have busyness of your day or night, after this, right now, this time is for you. Thank you. It's amazing how just even those moments can shift everything. So that's one of the things that, I talk about Reiki on the fly all the time, and why I use it, because it does shift quickly. And so, of course, I love Reiki for a long time, but when in need, Reiki on the fly is as powerful. It's just a different experience. So, every month we cover a new topic. And so this month we're really going to do some investigating in spiritual guides, Reiki guides, spirit guides. Who are they? What are they? And the Reiki energy and how that works with spirit guides. And of course, it's a really big subject. And, in my own personal training, took years to really develop the connections, the understanding, the awareness that they even exist. Or I should say the remembering, because I'm just certain many of us remembered them as children and forgot as we got older. And so going back to it. So we're going to talk more about it. I think it's a really important discussion to have, and kind of how Reiki works with that and why. And also, you can be interested in hearing about it and never interested in engaging with spirit guides, and your Reiki is equally powerful. The engagement with the Reiki guides, Reiki naturally helps you do that and make that connection, because it takes you to the same place they are. You meet soul to soul at that point. But Reiki is doing its work because Reiki works that way, not because you have met a spirit guide. That's a difference in the modality. So for instance, having shamanic training, the difference in the modality is that the connection with the spirit guide is how the energy does the work. The connection with Reiki is always doing the work, and that happens because you've received an attunement with it. You've made the connection, and that's the value of the attunement. And Yusui Sensei shifted Reiki from the one method of connecting with the energy to the attunement method to connect with the energy. That was the difference in how he practiced Reiki, which is the energy in Japan. It's not the system. He created the attunement within his system. Prior to that, Reiki and the connection to the energy was done through that, building that relationship, making the connection, learning how to connect to it. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about this month, and some of the how-tos. Make your own connection. Again, you can, kind of engage with it because you're curious and just want to know about it, and decide, yeah, I don't really, need to have that connection or those relationships. And you can also be totally skeptical, which I think is reasonable and healthy, to look at all of this with discernment. And then also how Reiki energy actually connects with spiritual guides and why that works. And the simple short answer is because you are the same thing they are, just in human form. They are in angel form, animal form, tree form. They can be in ascended master form, and you are in human form, because we are all here at different times in our soul's experience. We have multiple experiences, again, according to your beliefs. So anyway, we're going to talk about that. Robyn's going to deep dive more into the subject today. But before we do that, we were talking just like 15 minutes before we started here, and really realized that it would be helpful to mention the astrological bumps that are happening right now. And you may be having specific experiences with that. We are not astrologers. And so I'm going to put Molly McCord's name in the chat. She's one that I really like listening to on YouTube. She also has podcasts. And so I just find her to, probably the main thing with her is she talks about it in simple language. So I know enough about astrology that when people talk about it in complicated language, I can follow it. But for most people, once you get into all of the whys and the transits and the degrees and everything that goes with it, it gets like overload. So that's why I like her information. There's actually quite a few really good astrologers on YouTube. And then also, I think I probably better wait for Martha, but she's also starting a monthly, kind of like a Reiki circle, but astrology. So I'll find out from her if she's ready for me to post it here first before I do that. I'll probably have 100 people show up and she's like, wait, it's my first one. So anyway, she's also very, very skilled. So anyway, to get to it, Saturn is the planet of, it's a very earthy planet, and rules Capricorn. So it's very much the material world. So it also, on the positive side, it's what helps you create stability, foundations, systems, ways of manifesting in the material world. It's very much about that. Then Pisces is the planet of spirituality, illusion, can be very illusional. It can also be addiction, is another aspect. I'm very Pisces. My kids all have Pisces. I mean, it's like in our family everywhere. And so I'm very, very connected and familiar with the energy of it. On the positive side, it's that part of you that is connected with all time and space, kind of like the distance symbol. Like I can move my consciousness into infinity and back to mouse vision, and my mind works that way. I also live in a lot of timelessness. So Saturn moving into Pisces only happens every 28 years. This particular cycle is the end of a really long cycle, longer than 28 years. So it's affecting, and it just bumped today. In Pisces, it can bring up, as Robyn said, a lot of feelings. So it can have feelings. You may be really noticing it around you. It can activate your empathy. You may be picking up on more of the external world and feeling overwhelmed by, the just, it's too much. You might be having some really amazing spiritual experiences and revelations and aha moments. Saturn is going to come in and say, be practical. That's its job. How do you apply it to practicality? And it also, Saturn can be a contraction, where Jupiter is an expansion. Saturn will contract. So like Robyn and I, for instance, we're aware in the cycles of our business and how we work together, working within our own family life and everything, is that we were in a really big level of expansion prior, kind of into 2021, and we knew we needed to contract. We'd expanded. Now we need to contract, get things stable, keep that foundation built strong. All sides and corners and everything are on the ground. So you go through cycles like that, and the transits of the planets can affect us. So one of the things that we do commonly with our Reiki is align to the higher frequencies of the energies of the solar system, aligning with the earth, aligning with the rhythm of the moon. And we think of the sun and the planets. We are in this rhythm. We live within the rising of the sun, the setting of the sun. We live within the movement of the planets. So it's not so much about predictive astrology. It's moving into the rhythm and the higher frequencies of those rhythms. And then, of course, we're still going to be human. So we still have all the human conditions that we live within. In my personal world, I'm having a lot of people melt down around me. There's a lot of that going on. And normally, I'm really good at just being able to be stable, observe, and, kind of use Reiki to help me through helping others. This time I got a little overwhelmed with it all. And had definitely, truthfully, one of the days was like, I'm just going to bed. It's like 1:00. I'm done. I'm just going to bed. That's what is my best choice. And in the moment, it was like, do I get my stuff done? I was like, go to bed. And it was really such a good choice. The next day I thought, oh, that was perfect. And I watched mindless TV, like something really, like I didn't have to care, but I could watch it and it kept me busy. I think it was Cable Girls. So just something kind of soap opera-y, but good enough. So that's one aspect. The next really big transit, of course, we're in a full moon in Virgo today, but the next really big transit that's coming is March 23rd. You're already feeling it. And it is a big bump. That Pluto is moving out of Capricorn and into Aquarius. To give you an example of Pluto, it moved into Capricorn in December of 2008. That was almost immediately within days when the financial crisis hit in the housing market. So Pluto comes in and it really settles on those foundations. And in the places where it's wobbly, it's going to, restructure things with you. All of it is to your benefit when you're really working with the energies. So how we translate all of this, like I say, I'm not an astrologer, we're not astrologers, but what it really is how do you then use Reiki to entrain you to the higher frequencies of the transits that you personally are experiencing, because it affects every person uniquely. And even though there is a collective bump, it will all of these transits, of course, affect you uniquely. So Reiki elevates your consciousness. And sometimes, it's you're still going to be navigating through the stuff of it all. Doesn't mean that it's like suddenly you just have no stuff. But it can elevate you into the higher frequencies of the transits, their particular purpose for you at this moment. And so even what's the how to? I always try to get to the how to of it. And that's where I started the whole conversation, was with Reiki on the fly. A lot of the circumstances I've been in where people around me were really struggling were all moments of I needed Reiki on the fly. So by that, for those of you that may be here that haven't heard us talk about that before, Reiki on the fly is the awareness that you can simply connect with the energy however you need to, whatever way that works for you. And it can help you entrain to the energy, which is always a higher frequency. It can shift your thoughts. It can take a moment to, just like even here today, super busy this morning. I had all kinds of stuff to do. I'm behind on emails and things like that. And so kind of in a hurry getting here. And like, probably what did we do? Maybe at the most a minute of just breathing in that Reiki energy. And, it just shifted. The other thing that happens with Reiki on the fly, as well as long Reiki, but Reiki on the fly, is it activates insight. So the experience that you may have, like if you're in a long Reiki session and you're really deep and you go into the meditation and it's flowing through you and you receive those insights in the middle of it, or suddenly have your solutions to whatever it is that you need, or you have new ideas and new inspiration. Reiki itself and Reiki on the fly activates insight. So that sudden, like, oh, there it is. When you've been trying to, grab a hold of something and it's just like, where is it? What is it? And you maybe don't even know the question you want to ask. So Reiki on the fly brings insight. Could be driving, you could be talking to a friend, open the book to the right spot. Somebody says something on something like this. You're doing dishes, boom, eating a meal, anything, dreaming it. You may be a dreamer. You may wake up with it, go to sleep with it. So that's our kind of idea of how to move with ease, much more ease with these planetary shifts. Because these are really big ones. This is a lot to happen all at once. So, and like I say, many of you are going, oh, that's what this is. And you can feel it. On the other hand, for those of you, it's not always about the challenges. You know, Reiki will also bring in that. Oh, Robyn, you were talking about that. Do you want to pop in on this part? Because you were saying that this morning. It was different than my experience.
Yeah. So Colleen's been managing meltdowns, and I'm like, I'm doing great. So, yeah, it's been actually pretty good for me in this time around, and some solutions coming in also because of the Virgo full moon. So with Pluto moving out, although it'll retrograde, I think now twice. That's
I
what's
think it's even maybe 3 times this
well,
year.
it was 3 times. I don't know if it, oh yeah, it's, yeah, anyway, whatever. I'm not an astrologer. So again, I don't, some of those details, but Pluto transit in the last few years has been really, really rough. And so the Pluto moving out is actually like, I'm just feeling that lightness again.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it was hitting in my chart, and anyway, and so I'm feeling the lightness. And then what's been interesting is that, so we also have a full moon today in Virgo, and I think it actually was in 0 degrees, maybe depending on where you live, last night. And now Virgo is all about like details. It's about another piece that can be the practicalities. It's you know, it's detail oriented. It's a deep sign as well. And so with the Virgo full moon, I believe it was you saying that you've been feeling it since Sunday, which would make sense because we're going into the Virgo full moon. And also we're in Pisces season, and these big transits are happening. But with the Virgo full moon, one of the places of self-care and utilizing Reiki for some of these, as Colleen said, solutions, is that we always think of self-care as just as the relaxing things. And it is that too. Like, how do we fill up our own cup? And self-Reiki or a Reiki session from others is a really great way to do that. But with the Virgo full moon, one of the places that you can look to do self-care is in your practical choices as far as like what you need. So are there healthier choices that you can make? And it doesn't just have to be like eating or diet, it can be in all manners. Are there healthier choices that you can make in your job, in your relationships? And so sometimes the self-care looks like that. And when you have this opportunity to flow with the energy, it has, you have the opportunity to kind of move with it and listen into that and allow your solutions to come up. And so that's actually kind of what came up for me, is moving into the full moon. And because I kind of knew about the energy of it and in those self-care practices, as I had an opportunity to make choices that were healthier, and also they were screaming at me. So it was like, hey, you have to do this. You have to do this. You need to change this. And also feeling some backlash of not making the healthier choices, and then realizing like, oh, this is talking to me because I have the opportunity to do this here. And as soon as I made those healthier choices and flowed with the energy, that is when the things started to shift. And, you know, feeling really good about certain aspects, kind of coming out of like a tiredness that's been a little bit present. I wouldn't say necessarily tiredness, but like a motivation that hasn't been present around some certain areas in my life. But I know because I've been listening around it, and again, that Reiki on the fly, self Reiki, listening into the energy of the cycles, of the planets, the cycles of the moon, and where they're at and what they're doing, that the Reiki energy has shown me those solutions. So that too is, I think, a really big place of where we can use the Reiki energy that is slightly unexpected. It's not always going to fix everything, but how can we use the energies that are available to us to move through it in our emotions, or I'm sorry, move through it in our solutions. And then at the same time, sometimes those, as Colleen was saying, the meltdowns that are happening, they've been in our family and friends. So of course I know about them. Sometimes when we're in that place where maybe we are feeling extra emotional, when we are feeling extra emotional, or we're struggling, or there's things in our life that are really, really challenging, sometimes the self-care is listening into that. And sometimes the Reiki energy is helping us listen into that to find our solutions. Sometimes the Reiki energy fixes it, but other times it doesn't necessarily. And so when you're listening to the waves of energy, and when you're, maybe even sitting with your emotions for a little while, sometimes that's helpful. Other times it's not. Other times, as Colleen said, you just got to watch that, whatever show you were watching, Colleen, and zone out for a little bit. Sometimes that's our self-care, right? Like sometimes that's what we need to do. As I put in the chat too, sometimes the answer is to turn off the news and plant a garden. That's a song by Willie Nelson and Sons, and you should look it up on YouTube, but there are swear words in it. So just to warn everybody. And the garden, planting the garden is proverbial, because I know that's not what we're all interested in, or we don't have access to that. And so that's proverbial, but sometimes those are our answers for self-care. And so that's the other piece of this, is that, you can be in the hardship, as Colleen was saying, but you can also be in the joy. You can be in the good experiences. And how do we continue to be present in that? Because there's another piece of it. We talk about being present in the hard emotions, but how do we get to be present in the easier times? How do we get to be fully present in that when you are feeling good, things are going well, they're flowing well for you? Maybe you're in a cycle of joy and fun, and those kinds of places too, because like sometimes we forget to be present in those. Like, okay, things are flowing, and we just, all right, here we've got to get A, B, and C done. But at the same time, realizing like, oh, things are a little easier for me right now. This is fantastic. And yeah, just sitting in that as well. So both things can be true for us. And so just again, using the Reiki energy is super helpful to help you, as Colleen said earlier, with just bringing your presence here in this space, that Reiki on the fly. It's about bringing you out of past and present, or those maybe the places of fear, and bringing you into your body right here and now to help you navigate either side of that spectrum. So yeah, I think that's kind of what I had to add, other than just knowing also that there's a full moon today, a full moon in Virgo, and that can be also affecting how you're feeling. Full moons also always have new moons, and then full moons always have a certain energy to them. Pluto is leaving. We also are at equinox. So as Taylor said in the chat, who's an astrologer who's here with us, she is, or as she said in the chat, that, it's a big month. It's a big month. We got big things moving. And hopefully for many of us, that is going to be helpful as we're moving into this. Kelly, I also wanted to say, it's like what you said in the chat, like that, what I was saying with the movement of the waves of energy is, it's like being attuned to the universe, the Reiki. And that's very true. And sometimes it's easier to be in that, and other times it's not. Sometimes we have to-do lists. Sometimes we have a lot going on in our world, that is, makes it easier to be in that place. But as Asui Sensei said, I am the universe is me. Like, we are everything around us, and everything around us is us. And as before, same with the enlightened ones, that we are all a part of the physical and non-physical world. So there are those times when we hopefully can take a little bit of time to just move into presence and sit with wherever we're at, and moving with the energy and the waves of what is going on energetically around us. And it's also one of those things too, that other times we kind of move outside of what's going on around us as far as humanity is concerned. Sometimes it is a little bit too much to bear, and we're just one person and we can't fix it all. And we have opinions about things that are, and beliefs about things that are happening in the world. And so then sometimes with that, that's when we do have to just release it for a little while and go plant our proverbial garden, whatever that means to us. And then to connect back in when that cup is full. In my daughter's class, she's 6, and her class, they talk about, did that fill my bucket or did that empty my bucket, when they're talking about, relationship to the other kids in there, something that, as far as like how they talk about how they treat each other. And they aim towards behaviors and relationships with each other that fills each other's buckets. And they teach them to communicate, that emptied my bucket. And so there are those pieces, as well as what are the things that can help continue to fill our bucket. And we do know that Reiki helps to do that, right? Like, it is life force, spiritually guided life force energy. And so when we utilize Reiki with it, it is helping to fill our life force energy, helping us to reconnect into the life force energy. It's always there, but sometimes it feels dim. Sometimes we feel disconnected from it. Sometimes it feels muddy. Sometimes our colors feel muddy. And so the Reiki energy helps to brighten that up, for us to remember that we do have all of that spiritually guided life force energy within us at all times. But sometimes we have to just be reconnected to it. And so that is another way that Reiki can help with that, is it can help fill that bucket, help to connect us back into our life force energy, to help brighten our light. And then when we can navigate from that place, it is an easier place to navigate, no matter what you're navigating, whether it's joy, whether it's hardship, whether it's a lot of feelings or emotions, whatever you're navigating in your life, whether it's being stable for those around you, whether it's empathy for what's going on in the world, having that fullness of self, or having that Reiki energy filling you, flowing through you, helps you navigate all of those different spaces. And so, so that's kind of the conversation that we've had, because Colleen had a very challenging weekend. And I'm like, I'm happy this Pluto's moving out. I'm doing good with it. Saturn's moving into Pisces, which is good for me. And like I said, it's been I had one of the hardest couple years of my life. And so I'm going to take the joy today. I'm going to be in the presence of feeling like my life is finally getting back to having a little bit of fun rather than just being in kind of survival mode. So I'm going to be in the presence of that and also support Colleen and the people around us that are challenging, that are having challenging time. And while it can ping my empathy, using the Reiki energy to help with that, to flow through, to help with that. So it's not draining my own life force energy, or disconnecting me from my own life force energy. So yeah, so big shifts. And Pisces is going to be, or I'm sorry, March, which is also Pisces season, is going to be kind of a big month, I think. And so, yeah, I think that's kind of what I had to say around that. You know, one of the things that always I'm continually reminded of, not only for myself, but in clients, is like, we chose to come here at this time frame. And while it can be challenging, we knew that we could come here and be strong enough for this time frame. And so that is it's constantly something that spirit kind of shows and reminds when things do feel very dim, that we are all here. We all chose to come here at this time frame, and we are all strong enough. And there's a reason, because it is an important time frame. We're at the change of an age. We are in a transitional period as far as, you know, kind of how things are working in the world. And, you know, we are here during that time frame for a reason. So it's just a reminder and a remembrance of that piece of it.